the Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, Western Cape, and Northwest. A total of 1,714 fatalities were recorded in this festive period, which is a 5% increase on the previous period. The Eastern Cape, with 211 fatalities, recorded the biggest decline in fatalities, with a reduction of 20% compared to the same period last year, when it had 265 fatalities. We want to congratulate and commend the Eastern Cape leadership, demonstrated by both the Premier and the MEC, for the sterling work as they marshaled their troops towards the attainment of this significant reduction. The same goes for Northwest, which recorded 8%, the Western Cape 6%, the Northern Cape 5% reductions. Keep up the good work and remain our shining stars. This is a clear indication that it can be done and we can win this battle against recklessness on our roads. It is disturbing to note that the Limpopo province recorded the highest increase of 31%, moving from 186 fatalities in the previous period to 244 in this period. KZN and Free State equally recorded an increase in the percentage of fatalities at 18% and 17% respectively. We need to get to the root cause of these unwarranted increases and ensure that we implement our plans to the latter. What is alarming, ladies and gentlemen, is the 4 provinces of KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, Eastern Cape, and Limpopo jointly accounting for 61% of the total number of people who died on the roads in this period. This year, we have seen a high number of passengers dying on the roads compared to the previous period when pedestrians constituted a high number of fatalities among road user groups. A clear sign that our passengers are not using seat belts. Passengers constituted 40% of fatalities, pedestrians 34%, drivers 24%, and cyclists 2%. Children aged from 0 to 4 contributed 6% of pedestrian deaths. The gender mostly affected was males, with quite a disturbing contribution of 75% of the total fatalities being our young men. Females contributed 23%, which marks a 2% decrease compared to the previous year of the fatalities. Females can still do better. Women bring life to earth, and women must enhance and protect life. And we need to make sure that women actually start ensuring that they contribute to less and less fatalities on the road. Ladies and gentlemen, very disturbing of this number, 81% is apportioned to blacks, whilst the remainder is shared amongst colored, whites, and Asians. Light motor cars contributed 49% to the total crashes, followed by light delivery vehicles at a contribution of 18%, and minibus vehicles with a contribution of 10%. The taxi industry must do more to reduce the number of crashes caused by their vehicles. Remember, one taxi or minibus carries 15, 18, or 22 people, and therefore 10% means the big number of people that would have perished in that particular crashes. The Department of Transport published amendments to the National Road Traffic Regulations in November last year, aimed at regulating the transportations of persons in the load bay of light delivery vehicles for reward. The regulations will come into effect in May this year, and they will assist in the reduction of the number of passengers dying in collisions involving light delivery vehicles. Remember, on the LDVs at the back, there's no seat belts. So obviously, when people are involved in crashes in LDVs, they get thrown around like pieces of flesh, and it is important that we reduce that particular type of tendency. Less and less people must be transported in these light delivery vehicles. Ladies and gentlemen, necessary actions will be taken to turn the situation around. Building on the previous and recent experiences, the department will continue to improve its enforcement policies and strategies and upscale public safety campaigns. Specific interventions going forward are as follows. review existing legislative instruments to identify areas that need strengthening and further improvements, strengthen coordination and existing partnerships within government and outside government to maximize the impact of the public education and awareness programs, continue with endeavors to improve the state of our roads and public transport systems, take further steps towards the implementation of the driver license demerit system. Further technological innovations will be pursued, continue our engagements, and finalize with Department of Justice to introduce minimum sentences for negligent and reckless driving. We are seeking to reclassify drunken driving from a Schedule 3, which is less severe, to a more severe Schedule 5 offence to ensure those who negligently cause crashes on the roads do not get bail easily and spend time behind bars. And our cross-border operations will be strengthened to deal with the high incidence of cross-border minibus vehicles that are overloaded with both passengers and goods. Ladies and gentlemen, the arrest of a minibus driver from Zimbabwe who had 31 passengers in his vehicles points to the need to strengthen cooperation with our counterparts in the neighboring states. It is noble to recognize and thank those that have been law-abiding road users who made it to their destinations without any incidents. This they achieved by simply adhering to the rules of the road, driving within the set speed limit, buckling up, avoiding the use of cell phones while driving, using roadworthy vehicles, remaining calm irrespective of challenges confronting them on the roads, taking regular stops to avoid fatigue, and avoiding the use of alcohol while driving. Ladies and gentlemen, achieving the goals that we have set as the Department for the greater safety of all South Africans is a long-term program. It will require greater cooperation between the Department and all citizens of the Republic of South Africa, including those who are visiting as tourists and who are here to work. We have committed ourselves, and we shall achieve it by enforcing the law rigorously every day, ensuring that we act without fear or favor, and maintaining constant high levels of visibility on all hazardous routes. We take solace in our understanding that the rate of increase in fatality was brought down due to urgent interventions that were implemented after the meeting of December 20 with heads of departments and traffic chiefs. Indications at that moment were that we were facing an onslaught of unprecedented proportions, and we agreed to release resources to struggling provinces, intensify road safety communication and education campaigns, and strengthen monitoring of our law enforcement operations. These interventions helped us to contain the situations against incredible odds. Indeed, the experience of 2016-17 festive season have proven what the Nigerian author Ben Okri observed when he said, and I quote, "The most authentic thing about us is our capacity to create, to overcome, to endure, to transform, to love, and to be greater than our suffering." Close quotes. We will now begin the task of planning for the next peak travel period by ensuring that we allocate resources appropriately, that we plan and manage over time, and we reduce fatalities every day of the year. We will use every day and every weekend as preparation for the peak periods. We will not lose the momentum created by the efforts we put in this festive season. The department will continue to implement ongoing campaigns to ensure that we significantly reduce the fatalities by the end of the United Nations Decade of Action for Road Safety campaign in 2020. Though the picture seems bleak and the hope for those who lost their loved ones may dwindle, we remain steadfast in our commitment to confront lawlessness and rogue usage of our roads. We will forever be inspired to tell the truth, no matter what the circumstances might be. Let me once again reiterate what our fellow freedom fighter Amika Cabral once said, and I quote, "Hide nothing from the masses of our people. Tell no lies. Expose lies whenever they are told. Mask no difficulties. Mistakes, failures. Claim no easy victories." Close quotes. We all shoulder the responsibility as South Africans to ensure that we are always safe on our roads, as well as always jealously protecting one another. Remember the Sesotho saying that says, "Sitshwarwa ke ntjapedi, ha se tlholo ke sebata." Together, we shall win this battle. And I thank you.
Thank you, Minister. We shall now go to the second segment of our media briefing, where we'll give to the media an opportunity to ask clarity-seeking questions to the Minister and the entire panel. I beg your pardon, ladies and gentlemen, we shall take a presentation from the CEO before we give you an opportunity as the media to ask the questions. Over to you, CEO.
Thank you, Program Director, Minister, DM, MECs, Chairperson, CEOs. This is just an extraordinary measure that we have taken to amplify what the Minister has already stated in a statement, but it will make things easier for us to then understand. We just indicate in terms of the motor vehicle that have been registered that you had a total of 235,591, which is a 2.23% increase. Once you then include all the towed vehicles, it takes you to 2.163. What is the significance of this matter? You will then understand in terms of the law enforcement and managing the road network in South Africa requires. If you look at the percentages, you'll then realize that the most of the increase in the motor vehicles is in Gauteng, followed by Western Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. As the Minister has given the figures in terms of the highest increase, which will be in Limpopo, you'll then realize that the motor vehicle population increases about 5%. You need to just oppose the two and then begin to understand what we're dealing. But very significant with South Africans, which should then be told. In terms of the United Nations Decade of Action, when we report in terms of the fatalities and the crashes, we as South Africans, we report not only on the main roads or main arterial roads, we include even the rural roads as well as the municipal roads when the entire world does not do so. So it's very important that we begin to deal with this matter. We give a total picture of the fatal crashes and fatalities on all our roads, be it rural, be it gravel, be it the surfaced roads. We have seen a decrease and a decline in terms of the issuance of the learner licenses, which decreased with about 0.05%. But what is important is the increase that the Minister spoke about in terms of your driver licenses. New drivers that have entered our road network is 506,387. What is the change? 4.3. But what is the ratio to the law enforcers? We have not seen any increment in terms of the law enforcement that are supposed to be dealing with these people. As we then contextualize those issues, it's important to look at the stretch of the road network to deal with the law enforcers or human capital that is available to deal with those issues. If you look in terms of the number of the PRDPs, professional drivers permits, which are used for those that are driving those public vehicles, we haven't had an increase of 2.64. Now, these are the people that have the PRDPs. The question is there anything professional in this in terms of the PRDPs? When people are squashed and smashed and killed in this fashion. Now, Here for the media, we want to distinguish the two because there's always a confusion between the fatal crashes and the fatalities. We had this number last year of fatalities, 1,282. This year we have 1,353 crashes. There was an increment of 71, which represents 6%. Where did we have this increment of fatal crashes? We had them in KZN, Gauteng, and Eastern Cape. If you compare the previous financial year, we had the increase in these three provinces. But it does not translate to the fact that if you have highest fatal crashes, you will have highest fatalities. It doesn't work that way. When did these fatalities occur? Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it's glaring that we have an extraordinary extended long weekend. You'll recall particularly the Boxing Day, the Christmas holiday, as well as the New Year. But we had a reduction in those days. That talks to the law enforcement that was intensified. We will then give this in terms of the crashes per day. They normally happen after 8 o'clock and mostly between 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock. This will account to the public transport. This is when most people are rushing to their work destinations. You had this. But these that are after 8 o'clock up to 10 o'clock, we're not too sure where are they from. Your guess is as good as our guess. Deal with the crash type. These are the accidents with pedestrians which have reduced in this financial year, as well as single motor vehicles that have overturned. But the head-on, you can see that we have an increase on this, but addressing the point that the minister was talking about in terms of the quality of our drivers on the road. The human factors have contributed 79.19%, vehicle factors 12%, and environmental factors 12.3%. We all know that this festive season was characterized by the inclement weather and very heavy rains, but still we still registered a reduction in this. This is where you're focusing. What is the number of fatalities this financial year? Last year we were sitting at 1,629. Where are we this year? We're sitting with 1,714, which measures an 85 increase, translated to 5%. Those that attended the media briefing by the minister on the 20th of December, we were already sitting at 1,200. And that's why the minister was then talking to the issue, had we not gone an extra mile to deal with the intervention, we're well heading for about 3,000 or 4,000 fatalities. So those interventions helped. And where did we register a significant decrease? Eastern Cape decreased by 20%, followed by Western Cape 6%, followed by Northwest with 8%, Western Cape being number 3 with 6%, and Northern Cape with 5%. These are the major reductions in the history of the fraternity. In terms of those that have increased significantly, Limpopo has registered 31% increment, followed by KZN 18%, followed by Free State 17%, and Gauteng 11%. This is very important in terms of the figures and the fatalities that we had. Where do we have the most contributors in terms of the road users? Our drivers sit at 24%. But very stubbornly and very controversial is the 40% that is accounted for passengers. And the minister has dealt with this issue, that these passengers are those that are mostly not wearing their seat belts, who becomes victims of the reckless and negligent driving of the drivers. When it gets to pedestrians, we have seen a drop in relation to the pedestrian behavior and in terms of the numbers that we have. We were told that in terms, by Stats SA, in terms of the human population, females are greater in number, far exceeding males. But in the roads fraternity, the converse applies. 75% of the fatalities are accounted to males and 23% to females. And females have heeded the call. They've reduced from 25 to 23. And we applaud women for having taken these brave steps to deal with this matter.
Malibongwe.
The fatalities, as per the race classification, 81% accounts for the black folks, while the remainder is shared between all these other numbers. Where do we have a problem in terms of the age group? We have a problem with South Africans who are between the age of 25 until 40. And you can see the increase, a very significant increase between age 40 and 44. Perhaps is the notion that life starts at 40. Hence we have this significant increase. Well, I'm not too sure whether blessers are in this category or wherever, but it might be. They might be also in that.
There's somebody called Mureki.
But it might be a mixture. It might be a mixture of the fact that Agulalegu Uma Unemali Oscar Bora Mureki, but it's a combination of the two. The distribution in terms of the fatalities per pedestrians per age, we'll then see this reduction. And Minister MEC was asking me, who is this pedestrian between the age of 4? Where is he or she walking? I say the umbilical cord tells the story where this 0%, zero age is. But the problem that we have is still between the age of 25 until the age of 44. Both pedestrians as well as drivers, we still have a problem within that age. Perhaps the dress code must change. Skinny jeans must not be in there. Six packs must not be in there. We might reduce this drastically. In terms of the cyclist, we are seeing an alarming increase, Minister, between the age of 30 to 34, as well as 40 to 44. It still has that problem. These are the major crashes that we investigated. Despite the major crashes having declined, but the impact, it's heartfelt still. We've given a trajectory of the past 4 years so as to give a picture in terms of the quality of drivers that we have. Where did we have these major crashes? Mainly, you could see that problematic provinces were Limpopo, Gauteng, and the Free State. We had more to deal with in these provinces. I will skip all these. What is important with these figures is that 90% of the fatal crashes are accounted to human behavior, in particularly drivers. So drivers in South African roads are a problem. These are the issues of the law enforcement performance. We will just run through them. But what is important in terms of the minister is the notices that were issued to people not wearing seat belts. Last year we had only 2,000. This year it's 8,000. People are stubborn. They don't want to deal with the issue of the seat belts. This is really a worrying factor. We also have dealt with the issue of the vehicles impounded, despite the fact that we have reduced, but we have impounded a number of vehicles. Now, the province that was a shining star in terms of the vehicles that have been impounded is Mpumalanga. And we believe that we can still do more in terms of those that we have discontinued and impounded. And indeed, Minister, the NTP, we only have about 230 of the NTPs, but they overdone and overperformed all provinces. They hit 1,783 and discontinued those vehicles. So if the NTP, with the little number, can do this, what about the other 17,000 that is other in the provinces? And this gives a picture of the performance of the provinces. This tells the story on itself, how our traffic officers are performing in terms of, we just picked on one overload of goods. It's highly impossible that other provinces cannot deal with the overloaded goods when we see them day in, day out, that we have this high number, but we don't arrest such perpetrators. We have given the highest speeds that have been recorded on our roads. And Minister, we need to indicate that everybody is satisfied with the 40,000 fine that was imposed on the speedster, as well as the suspension of the license. We are challenging the Department of Justice that the license should have been cancelled,
Yes.
not even be suspended, so that it therefore sends a message that is clear. These are the highlights. The Minister has talked about that in terms of one of our shining stars of a traffic officer who is dealing decisively with fraud and corruption, as well as one of the vehicles that was stolen discovered in the operations. Minister, also what is important, you will see that when we arrested some of our own, particularly in Northwest and in Gauteng, we're sending a message that traffic officers are not immune from fraud and corruption. But with these 5 ministers, we have approached the DPP as well as the Department of Justice. We also want to pursue those that gave them the bribe so that we charge them with fraud and corruption. It should not only be our law enforcers, because it takes 2 to tango. There's a corruptor and a corruptee. Until those that have given their 200 rands, which are unearned, also can get 10 years sentence on the fraud and corruption, we'll be sending the message through the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, CEO, for the presentation, in addition to the statement by the Minister. We now shall give members of the media an opportunity to ask questions on the statement as well as the presentation that has been made. As a norm, please introduce yourself and the media that you come from, and we will pose the question. We'll take a round of 5 questions, and then we shall proceed to the next round. Those who have interest, can you please raise your hands? Okay, I see one here. Another taker? Sir, you are the second. You are the third, sir. Is there any other hand? No more hands. Okay. Shall we start with the gentleman here? Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Kaya Koko. I'm from the Star newspaper. My question is for the Minister. You touched on the advertising that you've been doing throughout the festive season and prior to that, some of which is still ongoing. Would you mind telling the budget for the advertising, how much exactly that was? And the secondary part of that would be, in your view, do you think that the advertising campaign has been effective in changing the mindset of the South African drivers? If so, how so? If not, why not? Thank you.
Second taker.
If not, why not? That was a parliamentary question.
Hi, good morning. It's Carl Ganeski from the Business Day. Sorry, two questions. First of all, I know these are preliminary figures, but...
Stand up.
Oh, sorry. I know these are preliminary figures, but does the RTMC or the department now have the fatalities for 2016 as a whole? And second of all, with regards to the stricter sentencing and the possible demerit system, is there any expectation this might be implemented by the end of 2017 for the next festive season? And has e-notice now been transferred as was expected? Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, good morning. It's Kyle Kumalo here from ENCA. Minister, just to get your answers on these questions, the first one would be, in light of the figures that you presented today, do you believe that the country is winning a war against this insurmountable battle, as it were? And another issue that I just want to touch on is the issue of the seat belts. I mean, there is a bit of stubbornness when it comes to that. Are you perhaps looking at imposing harsher penalties? And the issue of reclassifying Schedule 3 to 5 for drunken driving, how is that process, and how long is it going to take just to ensure that harsher penalties are meted out? Thank you.
Thank you. Minister, we have 3 questions in this round.
Thank you very much for the questions from the 3 people. I'm not able to give you the actual budget as of now, because you'd remember we'll have to collate the information and look across all our agencies, because it's not only the department that is advertising, it's the RTMC, it's the Road Accident Fund, and it's the South African National Roads Agency Limited, and many others of our agencies. But also, remember some of the work that we are doing with the private sector. We will also have to factor in the cost of the private sector, in particular the work that we are doing with Engine and Trace Urban TV. So there's quite a lot of money that has been spent. Whether it has been effective, I can say yes. Remember, one of the focal points for us during this festive period was law enforcement and pedestrian focus, in particular education and awareness. And I'm sure that you could relate to the reduction in terms of the number of fatalities in terms of pedestrians. One of the areas that we have also introduced that I would want to say has given us results was the fact that we, for the first time, actually did even community outreach, door-to-doors, and spoke to our community members. In that way, we have also recruited them onto our side as advocates and ambassadors for road safety. I would want to give you an indication that part of the activations that we did with a hashtag RideWise, we met people at different points who were saying, we wish this could be an everyday thing. Some of the information that we were sharing with our passengers in buses and in various vehicles that we met at what is this, Engine stops and refuel centers, that in itself gave us a good what do we get? Results. So I would want to say, yes, it has given us results, but I will give the figures when we have already collated them and seen how much we have spent so far. The preliminary results, and I mean indications, I'll allow the CEO to speak to that. The issue of the demerit system, there's a CEO of Artea who will just in a split second say something about it. But also, has the e-nators been transferred, the process that RTMC is working on, and the CEO will have given that indication. We are happy to indicate that we got the Constitutional Court judgment, which would necessarily allow us to take the system. It has been done, and it was done on the 9th of November, but the actual process that says how many of the people now have been appointed and how the system is going to run, you will pick up from that. The question from ENCA, is the country winning the war? I'm happy you're using the word war, because there's never been any war other than the war that we see on our roads. In terms of public education and awareness, I would want to say, yes, we are winning. People are aware. People are conscious. If you look at social media, if you look at the different postings that people have made, the statements, the work that the media itself, and I want to thank you guys for the focus on road safety. This shows that this is a consolidated a partnership that we all as society working on. The challenge that we have is in here, the matter between our ears. People just don't want to change their attitude to using the road. In particular, I would want to emphasize, we want, and guys, maybe as the media, you are many here, speak to the other male people and talk to them, for them to behave, to stop impressing others, friends and girlfriends and everybody else with dicing with death. You know, at times the way people drive, you'd think that they have made an application to die. That is the challenge that we have. Behavioral change, attitude. That is what we need to fight. And it is a battle, like you say, it is a war we will win. This battle is still on. It's raging as we speak. And it is going to be enforced by law enforcement and public education. I'm happy to indicate that we're starting to see the results even in terms of pedestrians because of the investment basic education has also put in terms of life skills training. The stubbornness to wear seat belts. We have seen even in the operations, MEC Mutlaban and other MECs would indicate that passengers generally, in fact, some of them tells you, no, we thought only the driver is going to wear the seat belt. And you ask them, but is the seat belt not there where they are? They start looking around. It's there. But the culture of the driver alerting the passengers to buckling up, it's also not there. And that is one thing that we need to enhance and encourage. But also the one of the children, somebody said the zero, babies who die in these crashes. It's painful. Why should a parent want to hold the baby in his or her hands in a car that is moving? In the times of crashes, everything gets loose. And that is where we have a problem. We've got children who are dying on our roads not because they are responsible, but also children who died as pedestrians, parents who fail in their responsibility. MEC Nkosi Malobane will indicate that in the door-to-doors we did in El Dorado Park, next to the main road there, people were saying, no, why is the teachers not teaching our children road safety? But before the child gets to school, the child is with the parents. Before the child gets to ECD centers, is with the parents. If the children can be taught all sorts of things at home, let's also teach our children about road safety. But also the places where our children play is also very important. We're engaging with SALGA with regard to that and the Minister of COCTA to make sure that places of recreation that needs to be created. Myself and the Deputy Minister, just as a social, we're just saying, amadoda, ingathi sine problem. Maybe we need a men's league like we have with the women's league. Amadoda asejele bafa emgwaqweni. What is happening to our country? We need role models. Our boy children grow up without role models because men are either in wrong places, in the grave or in prison. It can't be. And we need you in society. So we are appealing to you to focus. We will also encourage our youth programs, including our Bokasi Road safety, to be our feet, eyes and ears, our soldiers on the ground, to go to taverns. I was embarrassed on Sunday, Deputy Minister, to be shown a substance that somebody is marketing as this substance. Once you have taken your whiskeys and whatever, and you just take it, a 1 can, breathalyzer don't pick you up. So this substance, instead of it being, it is encouraging drunken driving. Like those law firms that advertise that if you are caught for drunken driving, we are there for you. It means as a country, we celebrate and even uphold drunken driving. The use of alcohol in South Africa really needs to be curtailed. We cannot be a nation that legally allows people to drink and drive. And that is why we're working together with the Minister of Trade and Industry to make sure that the new liquor policy that comes into being, we are going to make sure that we deal with the alcohol limits. There is no way we can allow people, if it goes according to me, I would say 0. But others are arguing about alcohol in medicine and others. So that is why we're talking about the technology to test medicine as well as other drugs and alcohol, so that we can actually decipher what is actually intoxicating our people. But even if you have taken medicine, there is clear instructions there, unless you take your medicine without reading. It says, once you have taken this, you should not drive or operate any moving machinery. In fact, it means anything that needs to be moved, you should not move. So I want to call on the media again to help us. Abu Mureki, now Batikin Kadiming. And those who go and kill Van Damme and whatever. Guys, we were born liquor in an existence. We will leave it on earth. It will always be there. Don't take it as if you want to make sure that you own it to that day. Literally, maybe we should create swimming pools of liquor so that people go and dive in there and swim and drink at the same time. But I think it is important that we, as the South African society, take drinking and driving as a menace, as a sickness, and encourage each other. I'm happy to indicate, I've heard of people at festivals where they were checking each other and say, you are not going to drive. This one is going to drive your car. Even if you insist, we are saying this one, because he or she was not drinking, will drive your car. That is what people who love each other, who have got the interest of others that they want to enjoy life with, would do. So we encourage at roadblocks, we pick up situations, but it is not encouraging for us. Government and our municipalities doesn't want to make money with fines. We want to make sure that we change behavior. And I want to appeal to the justice system. You know, when traffic and police work hard, MECs, and then they go to court and the issue is just overturned, it is not encouraging. There is no fortune that people must get when you have been speeding on the roads. The law says if it is 120, you have 120. If it is 60, there's a reason why it is 60. But it is important that we adhere to this and not turn South Africa into a war zone on the roads. Let people not say goodbye because they are not sure that they will come back. Let people be able to say, see you later, see you again, and all those, till we meet again, because it is important that we keep our people alive. We cannot have people dying like this. I don't know, MECs are traumatized as they are seated here. The things they see on our roads. The EMS, they are traumatized. Our traffic chiefs are traumatized. There is so much trauma in our system because of what we see on our roads. You would see even on these pictures where, or videos where pedestrians cross on the freeway and they just become rest in pieces because you have to go and pick up those pieces. Who picks up those pieces? It is our law enforcement officers, it is our EMS, people who are human beings themselves. Imagine what happens to them. So I would want to make an appeal to South Africans through the media today. Can we desist from this reckless behavior? And I would want to encourage our law enforcement officers, especially those who are not corruptible, to continue making it possible that they punish everybody who does not adhere, obey, comply, or respect the rules of the road. We've got laws in this country. We're not short of laws. It is just there are more than 53 million people of South Africans who don't want to listen. But I want to also say, out of more than 50 or 24 million people who traveled, many arrived safely to their destinations. And I want to applaud those, to say to them, continue traveling by train, continue using alternative means of transport, but continue adhering to the rules of the road. Avoid drinking and driving. Use the seat belt. Make sure children are restrained. Continue making it possible that you obey whatever law enforcement officer command that is given. It is important. It will save our lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Whilst the RTMC CEO is preparing to answer the issue of INATIs and the figures, the RTIA CEO will give us a snapshot on the INATIs. I mean, excuse me, on the ARTO.
The demerit system.
Thank you very much, Minister, Deputy Minister, Honorable guest. The question relating to the point demerit system, I can read into it two portions. Number one, it has been a long, arduous, and intensively engaging process that we have undertaken in terms of preparing the legislative framework. At the moment, we are preparing to implement and roll it out across the country. It is a process that is sitting at our national parliament, and we're quite excited about it and expecting that before the end of 2017, we would have the whole country implementing the point demerit system. Are we expecting it to make a positive impact in terms of road safety? Yes, indeed.
Yes.
We need to be able to understand that the point demerit system, which is a part of the ARTO, is nothing but a constitutional imperative for all of us to be able to understand and do everything in our power that anybody that goes out to enjoy the use and benefit of the road infrastructure that South Africa provides, they should be able to do so with a semblance of assurance that they can leave point A and safely arrive at point B. The second point that is also very important to emphasize in respect of the second part of that question, the ownership of a driving license is something that always belongs to the government. You don't own a driving license. You are merely given the privilege of exercising that benefit. And in order to do so, we need to comply with the actual conditions that have been given. And as we make this contribution, it is something that goes on wholesomely to make a positive impact in terms of increasing road safety for all our people in the country. So we're quite excited that the point demerit system will make an easy and objective process of easily identifying recalcitrant drivers, those habitual infringements, so that everybody else can get to understand that committing a traffic violation must be something that is socially unacceptable. So we're quite excited, we're looking forward to it, and we expect we're going to make a positive impact in it.
Thank you, CEO. RTMC CEO. I think the chairperson will respond.
Okay. To the journalists from Business Day, two quick direct answers. Inatis, as at the 9th of November, so said the Constitutional Court, must come back home to the RTMC. It cannot get higher than that. It ought to have happened within 30 days of that order, which was on the 9th. It ought to have been with us fully by around about the 7th or the 8th of December. That process has not yet been finalized because there is further litigation again. We are in court with DASIMA for reasons that I will not bore you with, but we shall emerge. Secondly, the ability to fully implement ARTO is wholly, if not solely, dependent on us administering the e-notice platform as a whole. So you will understand why there is serious legal contestation. While we respect the rights of those who think that this belongs to them, we will make announcements in due course. But to answer you directly, it has not yet fully been transferred to us as per the court order. With regard to the process on how far are we with the scheduling, you would understand that the law as it currently stands, traffic offenses are classified as between 1 and 3. The intention and all the willingness is to have it transformed to Schedule 5, which on its own necessitates legislative amendments. That runs a process on their own, but there is an acceptance in principle that that is the way to go. We are hoping that in the not too distant future, that law will be gazetted and promulgated. That is not a process that is entirely within the control of the Minister of Transport or the department, but it is something that requires multidisciplinary collaboration. We will keep you informed as and when there is meaningful progress to report on. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Shall we have the... Is there any...
That we
further
asked
input?
about the total figures of the fatalities for the 2016. Naturally, you will then observe a 20-day period after the close of the month. So the figures for 2016, Jan 1, 2016 to December 31st, 2016, will be posted after 30 days because the 30 days period after the close of the month is the validation process. We will then be informing through our website as we post them on monthly basis, the number of the figures. But just to buttress the point that the chairperson has articulated in relation to the reclassification, it's not as if the work has not done. Technical teams led by the ministers and deputy ministers have gone a long way. We are now at the process of beginning to deal with the nitty-gritties of the reclassification, the data, because the process will warrant to know what is that you want to achieve. That is the mischief rule. What is the issue that you want to achieve and to deal with? That has been dealt with. We've also involved the expertise from the CSIR who are done with this issue. Just for record purposes, Minister, on the 25th, the task team is now beginning to deal with the issue that is going to be forwarded to the ministers and the cabinet committees. So we do believe that the process of the reclassification of the Schedule 1 offense, Schedule 3, and to 5 will then be finalized sooner.
Thank you, CEO. May I get any indication of any further clarities, seeking questions? Okay. We'll start with you, sir, at the back. And you are the second. Shall we have the hand so that we have a wrap on the briefing? If you've got an intention, the third one. Is there any other hand? The fourth one, sir? Last hand? Okay. There's somebody, the fifth one here. Okay. Shall we give the mic to the first person? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Patrick O'Leary from Fleetwatch Truck Magazine. Have you got any figures on injured, serious injuries, etc.? Because there's an underlying tragedy there as well, and I think it should be highlighted. People get from minor to serious to critical injuries, come out paralyzed. That figures, if you've got any on that. And also, I see there's no mention anywhere of the trucking industry. You say light motor cars 49%, light delivery vehicles 18%, and minibuses 10%. Does that mean the trucking industry performed well? It would be nice to know what type of figures are available, because it was at a stage where you wanted to restrict trucks from operating on the roads because of being the cause of carnage, which they weren't, of course, but we'll leave that to you. So if you've got anything on trucks, that would be really great to show how they think. And the appealing, I don't think, to road users, which you've asked for before, the media is appealing. I don't think it's working. I don't think it's a success story here. What kind of other leadership are we looking at? What kind of other very different, innovative thinking campaigns? Is there anything on the table, perhaps coming from yourself and your Road Safety Council Advisory Committee? What have they come up with? It was, I think, 2 years ago. Have they come up with anything? There's 3 questions or 4 questions there. Thank you very much.
Afternoon again. My name is Kaya Koko. I'm calling from the Star newspaper. Advocate MCB mentioned earlier on that people should not have their licenses suspended, but rather taken away in totality. And Minister, you also touched on that you're speaking with your colleague from Trade and Industry about liquor laws. So my question is on that. How much collaboration is there between different government departments in terms of fighting what is my colleague called a war on the roads here? So with the Minister of Health saying that liquor should be reduced substantially, with you as well blaming, not blaming, but showing factually that liquor contributes a lot to the carnage on our roads. How much collaboration is there between different government departments, and is it effective or not? Thank you.
Third taker.
Good afternoon. It's Tristan from Road Transport News. Just 2 things. The one was, why are there so few roadblocks undertaken compared to 2015? And then if you could just, maybe the MEC from Eastern Cape can just elaborate on the successes in the province and what were the reasons for that. Thank you.
Fourth taker. This side as well, on my left.
Eugen from Media 24. I saw some comment from the Justice Project South Africa recently saying that the current figures do not take into account patients who die in hospital or 30 days later following an accident. I was wondering how you would like to respond to that. And then I was also wondering the provinces where we've seen an increase in fatalities, what do you think is the reason for that? What accounts for it?
The fifth taker.
Good morning. My name is Thabo from AN7. Minister, just to take you aback a little bit, the children who stand between the chairs when they are driving, I'm Thabo, I'm here just behind the camera.
Okay,
I'm saying,
okay, now I see you.
The kids who are standing between the chairs in the car, what measure of punishment would you take to the parents who are who are allowing that? Second thing is on N3 to, actually it's between Alexander and Greenstone. There's so many pedestrians on that N3, and I'm driving there every single day. And I'm always have to be cautioned, drive with 80 when I come to that point, because workers are crossing there every single day. Is it possible maybe for you to build a bridge for them so that there can be safety there? Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And the MEC of the Eastern Cape will share their experiences.
The MEC of the Eastern Cape will share experiences. There are also other MECs here who will speak. The MEC of Gauteng will speak to the issue of the entry pedestrians. And the CEO of RTMC will respond to the figures that does not show those who die in hospitals. And I will just say, and then the MEC of the Western Cape will also speak to the health and liquor issues. We have just concluded on the road safety review strategy, and I'm happy to indicate that it was signed off late October by NETLEC, which is a body constituted by government and business plus labor and community. That collaboration and cooperation can't go even higher than that to show the multi-stakeholder participation process. We are now about to take this draft review strategy to Cabinet for its finalization. The Department of Transport and its agencies are part of different government clusters. We participate in the social cluster, in the justice cluster, but also in the economy and the international because of the regional integration and cross-border operations we do. So there is no, in fact, in government, I would want to say, there is no department that participates across so many intersectoral platforms than transport. And it is primarily also speaking to this. In fact, to show the collaboration across all sectors, Cabinet even went further to say we need now to develop a passenger or transport, not only road, transport safety strategy because of the challenges you have with the rail safety as well as other transportation platforms. So I want to say to you there is maximum collaboration. I'm sure you would have realized that there are times where the Minister of Science and Technology, who is the shareholder minister in CSIR, would also speak to issues that they do to enhance road safety with the technological interventions that are coming to the fore. The work that we do with the justice platform right now, where we are about to conclude on the work that we started last year, January. Remember, we pronounced on it last year, and we immediately had a meeting with the Justice Ministry and the different stakeholders in justice. What we need to do now, like I said earlier on, it's issues of attitude change. I'm happy I didn't get your name correctly from ANN7. You raised the Tabo. You raised the issue of kids standing in cars. You know, there was a parent, a mother, and that's why I said to that man, I don't know whether this child was donated to you or what. Because you can't love your child and believe that this child, I kept on saying to this child to sit down. This child doesn't want to sit. What am I supposed to do? What type of parent are you if you can't educate your child, if you can't teach your child? If the child doesn't want to sit and be restrained in the car, then the child will never enter that car. If it was my child, he would never travel in that car. And I think it is important that parents be held responsible. That is why you would have realized that the number of drivers who were fined for not wearing seat belts have risen to this figure that it has been given. Those who have been using cell phones, the one thing that we are targeting now is child restraints. You know that it was introduced in 2015. Right now, we believe many parents have been buying new cars, but one of the things that they don't invest in, that category of young people from 24 to 44 are actually in childbearing stages. And these are the people that actually need to be held responsible. We need to make sure that through you as the media, we can profile. We are busy with the Justice Department also about the admissibility of footage that social media or your dash cams and whatever can produce can be used in a court. Because we do pick up these things, we do deal with these particular matters, but one thing is that it does look like in South Africa we've got irresponsible mothers, especially young mothers. We've got irresponsible parents, especially young fathers, who think that it is the type of love I would show my child if I allow my child to do as he or she wishes in the car. In fact, some of them even post on social media that this child is sitting with a sulky face because I said, buckle up. And for me, that is an indication of how you are failing in your duty and responsibility as a parent to make sure that you enhance the safety of your children. Some of the people with children hanging out of the car, literally hanging out because they are hanging out of the window, and if they are stopped by the traffic police, the first thing is this poor child that is crying. One of the operations, I spoke to children and I asked them, do you know that your mother will be arrested? And you will be without a mother. Even without saying anything, that child sit back and was busy buckling as I was talking to the child, which shows that the child knows what is correct, but the parent doesn't know or doesn't care. And that is the problem that we have. And that is why we need to make sure, and we have raised it with the Minister of Social Development, as the minister responsible for children in South Africa. We have also raised the issue of women with the Minister of Women, because we believe that it is important that we target specifically women with regard to road safety. Road safety is not a government responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility. It is not government that is in the car. It is not government that is driving that car where the child is standing whilst the car is in motion. So it shows that we've got parents who have been given the responsibility to be custodians of life, but are unable to do it. So we need to work together with social development. Some of these parents must actually be fined, not even fined, arrested for putting their children at risk. Because child neglect includes allowing that child to stand in the car, and because that is a child that is in need of care, because you as a parent have failed to take care of that particular child. So I think the other matters will be responded to by the MECs, as I have indicated. The others will be responded to by MEC Nkosi Malobane. MEC, you have been a victim of people who tried to even bribe you during the campaign and during the operations. Over to you. They think they can bribe their way through everybody.
No, thank you very much, Minister, and some of them are here. Shall I name and shame? Okay. No, thank you very much, Minister. In terms of the pedestrians that are crossing closer to Alex, there are pedestrian crossings there between Marlborough Drive and Vincent Shabalala Street, and also between Old Johannesburg and Vincent Shabalala Road. We have also deployed our traffic wardens in that area during peak hours, because it's not only a hazardous area in terms of pedestrians being killed in that area, but it is also a problem where there is a high rate of smash and grab. So we have deployed our wardens in that area to make sure that they monitor the situation. I think what one needs to do is to then make sure that there is at least a 12-hour shift that focuses on that area to make sure that the pedestrians are being redirected to pedestrian bridges as opposed to them walking in the highway. Thank you very much.
In fact, the bridges, pedestrian bridges are there.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, my colleagues and members. As the province, after the pronouncement of the statistics last year, we made an analysis and we've observed that our major challenge was on pedestrians, because the number of fatalities last year, high number of fatalities last year was of pedestrians. Then we developed a plan where we identified programs. Two major programs were the road safety ambassadors, and we've entered into an agreement with the Department of Education. We focused in schools, we identified number of schools, and we focused on road safety education through knock and drops. We drove pamphlets along the roads where the areas were identified in N1, N2, and N6 and R61. That is we do where we are doing public education with the ambassadors for young people from those schools whom we believe that they are plowing back in their villages and in their homestead. Also, we focus in the program of stray animals. We are impounding stray animals on the road in the province. Of course, we are encouraging our law enforcement officers. We are working with them to encourage them. They are trying to change the behaviors. They are trying to change their commitment in working with the roads by working overtime and being visible at all times. But our focus, of course, is community education on road safety. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Minister. Colleagues, members of the press. Questions have been asked, what are we doing about innovation? In consultation with the Minister and the RTMC, we believe that data and quality data is absolutely critical to making sure we put the right plans in place in future. One of the issues that we have been working on is the alcohol game changer, and we've reintroduced the Draeger to the Western Cape since the 3rd of August, because we have a feeling that justice delayed is justice denied. And if you actually look at the number of cars that are stopped and the incidence of them being found drunk behind the steering wheel, in the whole province, our data from the previous year showed an incidence of about 3%, and since the Draeger, that came down to 1% for the province as a whole. And if I look at my data for the major roads in this particular period, we had 212 people out of 293 arrested for drunken driving, but the sample size was 48,344, which is 0.4%. If one looks at the world leaders in terms of alcohol usage by drivers, Australia is top at 0.1%. So through the Draeger alone, because if you're arrested with a Draeger, there's no time for blood. You spend the whole weekend in jail and you're in court on Monday. And let me tell you, that news spreads like wildfire amongst the drivers. And then they learn to behave themselves for one simple reason. There are consequences. And if you have consequences legally for drivers, you'll start to change behavior. Thank you.
Any experiences? Okay, we'll give to the RTMC CEO to...
Thank you. It's not an intention to indicate that the trucking industry has no significant contribution to our fatalities. In fact, the articulated trucks have contributed 3% of our entire fatalities and crashes, as well as the articulated multiple trucks contributed 3% too in terms of the fatalities. Those figures are there. We'll gladly share them with you if you really need them. The question of the fewer roadblocks that we conducted, it's true. It's because in terms of the planning, we identified that most of the people will focus on roadblocks. So the strategy was then to deal on sporadic pulling off of the road users, which has been very beneficial and has yielded results, because the mindset of drivers is that the fact that where there's a roadblock, if I have escaped the roadblock, I will not have any consequences. So we changed the game. If you look in terms of the figures, you look both at the Eastern Cape, you look at Northwest, and also look at the Eastern Cape, and then I think the Western Cape, you'll also have seen in terms of the video snippets when MECs were pulling sporadically the vehicles. It has more impact over and above the roadblocks. But also the roadblocks then during this festive season, we focus mainly in the corridors because we're not dealing with only one type of offenses. We're dealing with multiple compliance factors. But one other issue that contributed to those issues, the inclement weather, has also contributed that in our planning we took into account the rainy days so that we don't have these roadblocks, because now we'll not have our law enforcers working and pulling people over the lanes. But indeed, if you look in terms of the stolen vehicles that we have recovered, if you look in terms of the dacha that was discovered, and one of the very, very painful scenario, Minister DM was in Mpumalanga, and DM, I think you were in there, where a mother with a 3-year child was caught with dacha in a suitcase. And those are the issues that the sporadic pulling off of people gives results to.
Colleagues, lest we are accused of being xenophobic, there was an issue that was raised with regard to foreign licenses. I say this in the context of what was reported, I think, a day or two ago, where a foreign national knocked and killed people driving a taxi, and he ran away. In terms of the figures, we have the following categories of foreign licenses. Those that have been converted, 2,562. Foreign learners licenses supposedly issued legitimately, 39029. Driver's licenses issued to foreign nationals, 24,912. Now, obviously, there is a process underway which is aimed at validating and verifying, these figures. So I just thought, in the context of the minister saying, if you obtained it dubiously, you will soon lose it. That is the status with regard to our foreign drivers who are, needless to say, being employed in the majority, especially by those who are transporting people for reward. Those are the figures. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are now going to take, if any, few hands, not even 5, that none. 1, 2, 3, it's a wrap. Thank you very much for you being good audiences. The one-on-ones will be arranged with the minister, the deputy minister, and the MECs outside. Thank you very much. And lunch is served for everyone. Please do join us on the left-hand side of this room.